So good morning once again, dear students of class 11. Let's once again continue with the text of The Tempest from where we had left off in our previous video tutorial. So please take out your textbooks and get ready for your class. So dear students, once again we meet, and today we are going to continue from page 32 of your textbook. And we were in Act 1, Scene 2 of the play. So please take out page 32. We had finished up to page 31 in our previous video tutorial, which I had shared with you earlier. And I'm sure all of you have understood up to page 31. Now let's see what we have on page 32. The conversation continues between father and daughter. We have Prospero, the father, talking about his past history with his daughter Miranda. So let's see what we have on page 32. I'm scrolling up now. Act 1, Scene 2, The Tempest, page 32. And on your screen you can now see page 32, and here we have Miranda responding to the words of Prospero and saying, "Your tale, sir, would cure deafness." Meaning to say that I am paying so much of attention to what you are telling me, dear father, because the story which you are telling me is going to cure someone who suffers from deafness. Deafness means inability to hear anything. So it is so interesting a story that it can even cure a deaf person. Prospero says, to have no screen between. He continues with whatever he was telling her about her uncle and his younger brother Antonio, who has usurped or taken away the throne of Milan from him and has thrown him and his daughter out of the country or out of the dominions of Milan. So Prospero says, to have no screen between this part he played and him he played it for, he needs will be absolute Milan. So when there was no screen that separated him from the role that he was playing and the person for whom he was playing that role, since there was no screen, I did not have any feeling of doubt about my younger brother Antonio, your uncle Antonio. And so there was no partition or no screen between the person for whom he was playing this role and the role that he was playing. So he started thinking of himself as absolute Milan, meaning to say the absolute Duke of Milan. So he started imagining that since he is playing the role of the Duke of Milan, and since his brother is not at all bothered about the administration of Milan and has left it to him, he decided, or he started thinking, or he started believing that he should declare himself the absolute or complete Duke of Milan. So that is what he decided to do. Me, poor man, my library was dukedom large enough of temporal royalties. He thinks me now incapable. So I was a poor fellow because for me, my library full of books was my world. My books were my world. They were the components that made my world. And so I was not at all focusing on whatever was going on in my dukedom in the hands of my brother. And he started thinking that I was not capable. I was no longer capable, that I was incapable of continuing as the Duke of Milan. It was his way of thinking. That's what he started thinking, that I was no longer suitable to continue as the Duke of Milan. And so what does he do? That is what Prospero says. Confederates, so dry he was for sway. He was so dry. And here the word temporal means worldly. The meaning is explained alongside. You must always, as I keep on telling you, refer to the meanings so that there is no confusion as to what these lines mean. Apart from my explanation of the lines, you must also listen. Of course, you must also watch, observe, and note down the meanings explained alongside. So he confederates. What did he do? He conspired. He made an alliance or a friendship with one of my enemies. He was so desperate for power. Sway refers to sovereign power. Drive for sway, thirsting for sovereign power. So he was so desirous. His intentions were so strong to become Duke of Milan that he made an alliance or a friendship with the King of Naples. With whom? With the King of Naples. The same King of Naples whom we met earlier in the opening scene of the play. Alonso, who was in that royal vessel which was troubled, tormented by the storm, the tempest. So it is the same Alonso who was actually the enemy of Prospero. So my brother made an alliance with my enemy, the King of Naples, to give him annual tribute, do him homage, subject his coronet to his crown. So, how did he make this alliance? How did he make this friendship? He offered to submit himself completely to the King of Naples, to be subordinated by him, to be controlled and governed by him. He allowed his crown, his coronet. Coronet refers to a smaller crown of an inferior ranking in comparison to the bigger crown which is worn by a king. Like I told you in my previous videos, that a kingdom is a much bigger domain and is ruled by a king, and a dukedom is a much smaller domain which is ruled by a duke. A duke is a king, no doubt, but he is a smaller king of a small domain. And so he said he will pay an annual tribute to the King of Naples. And not only that, he will constantly do homage to the King of Naples. And he will subject his coronet. He will subject, or he will put his crown down before the King of Naples. In other words, he will submit himself to the King of Naples and bend the dukedom, yet unbowed. Alas, poor Milan. That's what he did. He was ready to bend low before Naples. Alas, what a sad, what a tragic thing to happen with Milan. My dukedom had never bowed before any other kingdom or king. But my brother, he decided to do it because he wanted power. He knew alone he could not do it. He needed somebody's help, somebody more powerful. So he made an alliance with the King of Naples and he decided to bow low before the King of Naples. And that's how my dukedom had to bend low before Naples. Till date, it had never bowed before anyone, but now it was bowing before Naples. Alas, poor Milan. To most ignoble stooping. It was a most humiliating, something which was most dishonorable. This kind of stooping was what he brought about for my dukedom. Miranda, oh the heavens. Miranda is shocked to hear this. Oh my God, oh the heavens. Prospero continues, mark his condition and the event, then tell me if this might be a brother. Now, as I describe to you, listen carefully to the understanding or the settlement or the pact which was agreed upon between the King of Naples and my brother. And then tell me if this might be a brother. And then tell me if this is what brother means, if this is what a brother should be, according to your judgment, after listening to it, tell me whether you think really that such a man should be considered a brother, or that a brother should do a thing like this against his own brother. Miranda says, I should sin to think but nobly of my grandmother. Good wombs have borne bad sons. It will be a sin on my part, says Miranda, if I think negative about my grandmother, that she had given birth to such a son. Talking about Antonio. Antonio and Prospero were the two sons of Miranda's grandmother. So she says this, it will be a sin on my part if I think that my grandmother had given birth to such a bad or nasty son. But then it's a fact that many a times good women from their good wombs have given birth to bad sons. So, while one son proved to be good, the other proved to be bad. So the mother cannot be blamed if the son comes out to be nasty or bad by nature. The mother has given birth. That does not mean that she had intended or she had wanted her son to be bad. No mother wants that. That's what Miranda is talking about here. That good wombs have borne bad sons, have given birth to. Prospero says, now the condition. Now let me tell you about the pact, or the condition, or the understanding, or the agreement between my brother and the King of Naples. The King of Naples, being an enemy to me, inveterate, he was a long time enemy of mine, this King of Naples. Inveterate, long standing, confirmed enemy. Hearkens my brother's suit. He listens to, he pays attention to my brother's appeal. Suit means appeal. When my brother approached him, spoke to him, talked to him, he heard him. Which was that he, in lieu of the premises of homage, and I know not how much tribute, should presently extirpate me and mine out of the dukedom. So this was what the King of Naples agreed to do, that the homage and the tribute which my brother would offer to him, in exchange for that, he would help my brother to remove me and whatever was mine from the dukedom of Milan with immediate effect. This was decided. So, and confer fair Milan with all the honors on my brother. And after that, after throwing me and whatever was mine out of Milan, he would confer or hand over officially Milan and the crown of Milan, the position of the duke, to my brother Antonio. So this is what the agreement was. Whereon a treacherous army levied one midnight, fated to the purpose, did Antonio open the gates of Milan. So, once this agreement was made, one fateful night, an army sent by the King of Naples came to the gates of Milan, and my brother Antonio opened the gates, and the army of Naples entered my dukedom. And then, in the dead of darkness, the ministers for the purpose hurried thence, and in the dead darkness of the night, what did they do? These people who were carrying out the task or the order which was given to them, they hurried us, you and I, both you, my daughter, and I, we were removed from Milan. From there, thence means from there. We were removed. We move on to page 33. Me and thy crying self. We both were removed from Milan by this treacherous army, for whom the gate was opened. The gate of Milan was opened by my brother. They came into Milan and they arrested us, captured us, and took us away from Milan. You were crying at that time. I and you were a little child, just about 3 years old. That's how old Miranda was. She was crying. In the middle of the night, father and daughter were removed from Milan. Miranda, alack for pity. Alas, I, not remembering how I cried out then, will cry it over again. It is a hint that rings mine eyes to it. I don't remember, father, how I must have cried at that time, because I was so small. I don't have any remembrance. But now that you tell me all this, my eyes are already full of tears. And I will cry now, thinking about what had happened to us so many years ago. I now understand what had happened and can feel the pain, the suffering better than I had felt then, because at that time I was an innocent little child, had no idea. So I want to cry now, thinking about what had happened to us then. Prospero, hear a little further, and then I'll bring thee to the present business. Listen to me a little more, and then I will talk about the present happenings. Why now these things are being done by me, you will understand then. Which now is upon us, because the present situation has now come upon us, and we have to act accordingly. And that's exactly what I am doing. That's why you must listen a little more, because there is something more I want to tell you. Without the which this story were most impertinent, which is now here, without which this story would be most irrelevant. So the present situation has come to that particular moment where our reactions must be in accordance with what had happened so many years ago. So it is important for you to listen to me and understand everything that I am telling you. Miranda says, wherefore did they not that hour destroy us? Why is it that at that very moment those people did not kill us? They could have killed us then. Why is it that they did not kill us? Prospero explains, well demanded, wench. Wench means girl. Old fashioned English, wench means girl. So that's a good question, girl. My tale provokes that question. In fact, what I have told you so far has prompted you to ask me that question. Why didn't they kill us then? They could have easily killed us, but they did not. Why? I'm telling you. Dear, they durst not. My dear, let me tell you that they did not dare to do so. They did not have the daring to kill us. They did not dare. So dear the love my people bore me, not set a mark so bloody on the business, but with colours fairer painted their foul ends. People of my dukedom loved me. I was a very popular duke. I was loved, honoured and respected by my people, my subjects. And so these people, when they took over, they did not kill us. Because when the Duke is good and when he is immensely popular, you cannot kill the Duke and say that he was bad. Nobody would believe you. They knew it. So they had to do it in a different way. They had to paint a fair color to give an impression that they were doing something good in order to fulfill their foul intentions, foul ends. So they did it in a very sly, very subtle, very clever sort of way, trying to give the impression that they were doing something good for the people of the country and not killing us. In few, or in short, they hurried us aboard a bark. They quickly made us get into a ship. Bark means ship or a boat. In this case, it's a boat. Bore us some leagues to sea and then took us out into the sea. Leagues, measure of distance in the sea. So they took us out into the sea. Which sea are we talking about? If from Italy you move out into the sea, then you move out into the Mediterranean Sea. So we were moved out into the sea, far from Milan, from the mainland of Europe. We were made to move in a ship a few hundred leagues into the sea, where they prepared a rotten carcass of a butt. And then, see, the measure of distance is given here, leagues, measure of distance, 3 miles or approximately 5 kilometers. So, a few leagues could be about 20, 30, 40 or even 100 kilometers. So, they took us out into the sea, and there, in the middle of the sea, they prepared a butt. What is a butt? It's a small boat, ramshackle or a boat. And this boat was in a terribly bad shape. The wood was rotting and there was no equipment, no gear, nothing. No oars, no rope, no sail, nothing by means of which you could make it move in a particular direction. And then the body of the boat was also rotting. So they prepared this butt. Okay? A rotten carcass. It was a rotting dead body of a boat. Not rigged, not equipped, nor tackle, sail, nor mast. Nothing was there. The mast is the long pole in the center of the boat from which the sailcloth is suspended. The tackle is an attachment to the sail by means of which you can move it up or down. And the sail itself, or the cloth, which catches the wind and makes the boat move. There was no tackle, there was no sail, there was no mast. It was not rigged with equipments, no oars, nothing. The very rats instinctively have quit it. Generally in boats and ships, there are rats. They live on the food stored in the boat or the ship. And this particular carcass of a boat in which we were put, even the rats had left it, because animals have a sixth sense. They know that this boat will not last long in the water and will capsize. So even the rats had left the boat. There they hoist us. They put us into that boat and then left us in the middle of the sea, floating in that boat, to cry to the sea that roared to us, to sigh to the winds whose pity sighing back again did us but loving wrong. We were left floating in that boat, we were lowered in that boat, and we were put into the sea, and the ship went back, and we were floating aimlessly in the sea, in the hands of the elements, at the mercy of God. and we were crying and sighing, and the wind was sighing back to us, feeling sorry for us, but in sighing back to us, it was actually doing loving wrong to us, because even if the elements seem to love us and feel sorry for us by sighing back and not helping us in any way whatsoever, they were doing us wrong. So we were left in the middle of the sea, in the middle of nowhere, floating in a boat which was in bad shape, you and I. Miranda, alack, what trouble was I then to you? Alas, I must have been such a great trouble to you at that very moment. Dad, you were in so much of difficulty, and over and above, I was with you crying, a little baby in your arms. I must have been a big trouble for you at that moment. Your troubles were increased all the more because of my presence with you. Prospero says, oh, a cherubim, definitely not a trouble. You were not a trouble, my daughter. You were like an angel to me. In other words, because you were there with me, I had this will to live for your sake. So you were no trouble to me, my daughter. You were like an angel to me. So with that, we come to the end of page 33 in Act 1, Scene 2. And we will stop here for the day. And you can mark, we have done up to the end of this particular page, and the line number is 178. 178 cherubim. Mark up to this much. I hope I have been able to make you understand the lines. Thank you very much.